You want to open up? First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Finance Committee meeting. Appreciate you being here after hours. I won't keep you too long. We'll ask Mr. Terry Locklear to give us a little invocation right quick.
Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to be here. Father God, I ask you to preside over us today, Lord, and watch over us, Lord, as we go through our agenda and make decisions, Lord. Father God, please give us the guidance and wisdom to let us make the best decisions, Lord, based on the children of Ralston County. All these things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Terry. First thing we'll do, all right. Everybody should have a copy of the last finance you had. And you have some items in there that showed approved and some that been completed. We'll go over that real quick and get an update from Dr. Williamson or Mr. Ernie as far as approved or whatever. Then we'll get into these other items and if we can talk about them a little bit and see if we can find some money or how we want to prioritize them and come to some type of consensus. So we'll just start right quick up there with the modular units. Mr. Ernie, you gonna handle all that?
Yes, sir.
You will, just, when this, need to make it, I don't need a long drawn out, I just wanna. Milestone. Sir?
You have another copy of that.
Does everyone have a copy of this data report, L&J, January 21st, 2021? Okay. I asked the engineers to give us an update on actually how far we've came since the board has approved these items. The first one is St. Paul's Elementary. As you'll notice, according to his report, you see a number there, how much the actual roof bid was, that low bid. And it's approximately 90% complete. So according to his expectations, if there's no unforeseens, we're looking at about January the 23rd. And also there's a note there, they found a small area, which if you ever remember the old buildings between classrooms, especially when they added classrooms, they went right on up with a wall. We call those far walls, and they were designed to far spread, to protect one side of the building from the other. That's the area that they're having to add because that was in pretty bad condition. So that was the increase there that we saw that we just needed to take care of. If you notice on the top of those top walls, you'll see coping, or it's a veneer, which is usually made out of masonry, and it goes across, and it's bad for cracking over years, and it gets wet. And when it rains, it comes inside the building and it kind of penetrates and that goes out down your structure member. So that's where that additional cost is. And usually when we do projects, we try to ensure that as they see things or uncover things, that we take care of them up front. And
Did they have a contingency plan for that?
sir?
They have money in the budget?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're saying this job should be done by January 23rd?
That's what they're projecting. That's a projected completion date.
Okay, go ahead.
So they moved expeditiously on that for us. And remember, we spent, I don't know how much in just mold prevent or cleaning the mold and stuff that was up above those ceilings. Another cost that we will incur is putting back with the ceiling grid. Some of the ceiling grids were damaged and all of the tile had to come out where they done the cleaning. So, and we're actually upgrading those classrooms where that occurs with new light fixtures as we come back in. So those updated. Okay. And next we go to Townsend. Those numbers that you see there, I won't call them out. And if you will, just keep those numbers under your hat for now, because if you'll notice, he's still expecting to receive another price from another company. So that way we can, since this is a finance committee, you'll look at those numbers and you'll know that's the first numbers that come in. So we're expecting another set of numbers to come in. And by just keeping that under your hat, it'll be apples to apples whenever it comes in. So you see what the total building price is in the or the second paragraph after the breakdown of your modulars. And I spoke with him. I said, this project should remain under 500K, and he said he didn't see no problem with that. And remember, superintendent and I were discussing about the footings, and that's what the engineers were recommending as well. And the superintendent was on board with us on that because he's thinking those footings need to be put down in a real solid type condition. Sometimes they put block and just pad it. This, we're gonna pour cement. And you know, the logic is sometimes in hurricane season, you don't want to be sorry about that. So all the building codes will be adhered to. Now, once the numbers come in, then he'll go ahead and do the other procurement. Drawings for the plumbing, electrical, all that's complete. And then he'll just bid all of that out. And as those numbers come in, that will actually give us a true cost on that particular project. And like I said, I kind of prodded him and I asked, I said, will this remain under 500? He says, oh yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. Keep it under that at all. I'm expecting a lot less than that. But I just wanted you to see your numbers now. This is your first batch of numbers. And there's some more, another vendor's got to give them their price. And of course, on the last sheet, with the shining stars, which is crucial. And I know the board at our last meeting, everyone else is concerned that we maintain that building. And I think per the superintendent and I discussion and along with the chairman, that the negotiations for the building are well underway, and it appears that we're going to be in good shape to achieve the building. And so this is why we went ahead and got this much of the work out and going. So this job was also bidded, and that was the low bid there. So out of 3 bids, that was your low bid. And then he's showing an expected completion. Let's see, the project will start on the 28th and hopefully by March 12th. That's with no unforeseen things that we may incur. They always have to look, put that clause in there. Because when you're dealing with something existing, you may uncover something. And usually when we do that, if it's a building that we know the construction of, for example, like if it's a wooden decking, we'll make the contractor give us a price per linear foot or square foot if it's plywood on replacing any unforeseen damages. That way you have that, at least the number of the cost of materials up front. So that's pretty much those 3 items. If there's any questions that we can entertain at this time.
Yeah, I got a question. Okay, we talked about Shining Stars, we talked about St. Paul's, but I know it says approved the modular units. Where do we stand on the modular units?
Modular?
Yeah, the modular units for towns.
Okay, we're just waiting on the other vendor to give his price, and whoever's the low bid, we're gonna go ahead with that.
Okay. Is Locklear handling all that too?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
All right.
This speeds up,
Craig's got a question.
I'm sorry.
On that with Townsend, now I'm counting 4 classrooms there in an office. Was it supposed
It's
to
actually 5 classrooms.
5 classrooms?
You'll see that 24 by 64, if you notice, it's twice the size of the 24 by 34, 32, I'm sorry. That's what we call a double-double.
Right.
And to give you an idea what it looks like, Mr. Lowry, if you'll go to Prospect, you'll see 2 of those at the back of Prospect near the ball field. We call those double-doubles. There are 2 classrooms together in one building with a common hallway between the 2.
My question is, with that being 2 classrooms and then 2 more classrooms, that's 4 classrooms. My question is about that last one being an office. I was thinking is that a classroom also?
When you see the word office, those are her, what is the ladies, the nurses, the
Social worker.
social
worker.
workers and all that. And there's a little common area between that. One of those units that we're going to move from Tanglewood, it was already set up that way. And we were actually carrying that there for those resource people. So they have an actual resource building that they'll be working from.
And so the 4 classrooms actually, not counting that office, the 4 classrooms will take care of our number situation at.
Yes, sir. And see, the other, I call them resource personnel, that was the purpose of that. So she can get them out of the areas where they're at, free up that space inside the building as well.
Okay. Eric, let me get the money. Eric.
I just had a question because at the last finance committee meeting, when we were having the conversations about shining stars, there was some discussion that the county was gonna have the responsibility of paying for the roof, and our portion would be 94 or so thousand. Is that still in play, or are we taking reins on the entire cost, or has
No,
something?
as far as I know, yeah, I mean,
No, that was, well, Mr. Ernie and I just talked a little bit. The county's price on this, like $340-some thousand. And with their FEMA money and then us splitting it, it was us and them doing 90,000 each. That's the agreement we had. Now, what we have here tonight is almost $90,000 less than what they were showing. So, I'm gonna say we probably gonna have to have some discussion with them to make sure where we are with these numbers. Because they were, as you say, they had the price and they were gonna take, it was gonna be 90 now. If we're doing this year, there's definitely gonna have to be some discussion, I think, there. Now, the agreement was that we would have ownership of the building. This part here, I got a question there that's probably gonna be talk with Ms. Kelly and have to talk to Mr. Grady to see where we are with that.
I just need to know how to proceed.
I understand.
Are we taking the cost, sending them an invoice for the difference, just trying to get, that's probably way down the line in the weeds.
Right.
but-
we'll get an answer for you,
We'll get an answer. I'll try to make a call tonight before we leave, and then we'll get all that straightened out.
Mr. Gentry.
And this is not directly related to construction, but if I remember correctly, the board decided on a comeback date for the students, February the 19th. So if the completion date is March the 12th, where will the students be housed for 3 weeks or however long that time is before it's finished, assuming those dates hold?
Well, we won't have 100% of students for
It's
sure.
gonna be,
That's right.
yeah, a B plan.
So we think because of that, probably 35–40% of the kids will show up. We'll be able to place them in the classroom that's available. Because again, it's going on a rotation.
And also piggyback off of Dr. Williams, what he's referring to. High probability is we always give these numbers for the unforeseen. If you notice how quickly the one at St. Paul's has actually moved since the time we talked, that's what I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating a quicker move than what you see here, but we always have to build that in just for like weather, unforeseen things that you can't control. Plus, if a portion of that building gets dried in, that still won't stop us from having class. The portions where the classrooms are dried in at, they can actually go ahead and start using that building at that time because there'll be no more possible leaks there.
And
I just want to make a comment. I think it's impressive that St. Paul's Elementary project has went like it has. You guys jumped on it, took care of it. I've never assumed it would have been completed this early. And communicating additional cost, I like that, Mr. Hammonds,
Yes, sir.
because it keeps all of us in the loop. I've always heard talk of change of work order
Right,
and how there was discrepancies there.
right.
This is just good communication.
Yes, sir.
Keep us all in line.
And the fact that you allude to that is actually, that's the way it actually works with us in the fields between the design professionals and the contractors we work with. We have that same relationship that you just observed there. So that's the way we like it. And what our superintendent's told us, I'll never forget that. He says decisions should be what? Data, based on data. They should be driven by data, and you have the data.
Vontae.
We'll get back to the roof, on the roofing. I see R&J got the roofing and stuff. Are there any warranty on these roofs and stuff? 'Cause it seems like we always replace it.
Yes, sir.
Some,
There's warranties on roofs.
is there warranty on the work of the roof? I know there's,
Both. You've got workmanship and warranty on the roof.
you know how long,
I'll get you the information on what these roofs are. I'll make sure that information gets out to the superintendent so we can get it to the board, finance committee.
Okay. Go ahead.
How do we get a copy of the bids? Look at the bids, because RJ's got both of them.
Yeah. We've actually, cards, I don't know what to do with them. But, he got them both, but, there was Trimark. Here we go. All right, the St. Paul's Elementary job, you had 3 bidders, and we can get you the actual copies, because the superintendent had to sign off on that, so he had to actually proof over it before he signed it. But, St. Paul's Elementary, you had Muddy Creek from Beulaville, North Carolina. Their bid was, $158.
We don't, Mr. Ernie, we don't need to get into all that. If you'll just get us the information,
Okay, yes, sir.
everybody, that'll answer the question. We don't need to know. Yeah, I mean, we trust you in
Ms.
that.
Hughes has that.
That, don't you, John?
And the superintendent
I just wanted to
said
get a copy of it.
up front, he sees all of that up front so that he knows that we're covering the bases.
Right, we're good.
I'm sorry.
I think we need to check with our attorney though, if we can show the bids. If they were sealed bids, I'm not sure that we can.
Yeah, whatever's legal.
Once you open the bids, then it becomes public knowledge.
Right.
So these bids are opened, and so what you're saying is public knowledge. Prior to, it's exactly what you said. You cannot until they're opened
Mr. Ernie,
and awarded, that's correct.
Ernie, just,
You say,
And award.
And awarded.
If you ever have a bid process where you open the bids and you don't accept any of those bids, you can't share those
Right.
bids.
okay,
You have to also have an awarded or an awarded bid or
Okay.
winner of the bid.
That's correct.
Mr. Ernie, when you and I know other groups here, when y'all open bids and you open it for a project like this, how many people is usually there from the school system? Is it like you or Mr. Hugh or sometime, isn't there usually 2 or 3 people, right?
Still bid openings.
Yes, sir.
Advertised, yeah, some of our personnel was always there.
Right.
You and myself or whoever's
It's
called.
always more than one person.
And there's certain bids that if they don't go over a certain amount, they can just do it informal, sorry. Which is, the engineers handled all this, so all of the legal responsibilities and all that is in their camp. Not only are they the design professionals, they're also the construction and oversight on these projects.
you said they handled all of it, but when Craig's question,
They followed the law, in other words.
when they opened the bids, are you not there?
Yeah, if I'm not there, some of my folks are.
And
I got a question here around the roofing part of it too. Is this metal roof, shingle roof? Do we have a procedure in place as to a plan of action?
These roofs, Mr. Brewer, are just like the one at the 74 warehouse. It's that, how would you call it? Some people call it, like a swimming pool liner, but it's an actual liner that's designed for, big, large buildings.
Rubber.
And as example, I think the, Monsanto building, that's how they solved their problem. They had a lot of problems. And thus far, not only are they good roofs as far as repelling and keeping water out, they also are good from an insulation value too, when you add your insulation on it, so.
okay. So we got Townsend and we got Shining Stars and the roof repairs. I know it says approved. That's not in this list anywhere. The total roof repairs, all the projects that we approved.
No, sir, this is all we're reporting on tonight, right here.
Yeah.
These were the most urgent ones.
Right. How are those other ones playing out?
Okay, we're in the process of actually looking back with Miss Erica.
Yeah.
Monies before we actually go any farther than where we're at. I know y'all pushed the go button on it. We proceed with her involvement up front on it.
Sure.
So, and the logic there is so the engineers can kind of give us some good, serious numbers, because she has to deal with, the serious, the actual numbers, in other words.
I understand. Well, we're in line right now for sure.
And most of the roofing projects can be covered through lottery funds, so we're gonna use the funds that we have in lottery to cover all the projects.
Okay.
And one other thing we can do, it's up to the board, finance committee. You can bid each one of these projects, or you can take your low bidder that you got and you can start pushing buttons on every school. Design, put in, design, put in. Because all your criteria has been met as far as the layout. But if you can go back and start bidding again, you're gonna slow your process down. That's how we normally operate. once we get our bidding done for the year, whatever, we just move on with it and get a lot of projects done in that form and fashion.
Okay.
But could be perceived as being equal opportunity.
If you want to do that way, it's just gonna slow the process down, that's all. But it's just a matter again of a little more extra on the engineer, advertising and all that, so. But, we would seek the direction from with our superintendent to the board and finance committee, if that's the way you want us to proceed.
Well, I don't think you want to get,
Keep us in the loop, that's the main thing.
yeah, you don't want to get caught up where if you got one contractor, eventually to get out of hand where a $50,000 project becomes a $90,000 project.
And
Now,
if they have the manpower to do the job.
Right. And I could see what you're saying, and that could happen, but thus far, we've, been Johnny on the spot with the individuals, but you're right, we watch that. That's why we use professionals, design professionals. In other words, they can't say that maintenance director, board here, somebody over here influenced nothing. I like to keep everything above board, let it stay in the professional realm, and everybody's covered.
Okay.
And again, that goes back to our superintendent, what it says, let the data drive your decisions. Good data.
Okay.
Everybody sees it above board.
I'm gonna skip down here to the other thing that says completed and just the bathroom doors renovation, that's fixed, right? Edwin, you got it?
I don't have that.
Have a copy?
Yes, they're done. The doors are done.
You're talking about the ones over here? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. And vacant maintenance staff, so all those are filled, Dr. Williams, every one of them?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we'll go back to the list then. Right after roof repairs, it had weights and racks, safety concerns at Purnell Sweat High School. And we had HVAC repairs, and if you look at the list, I think all y'all got the list from the high schools, and some of them have HVAC. I know Lumberton has HVAC, and they all probably got HVAC in there somewhere. Fairmont's got some HVAC. We'll get back to that. And the weight room at St. Paul's, we talked about that for years. Dollar amount, a makeover to auditorium at Lumberton High, we talked about that. Install awnings in back of school at Lumberton High. Paving rent parking lot. Track repairs. All y'all remember the track repairs we were trying to do 2 a year. We did Purnell's, we did Lumberton and St. Paul's High. And I think, Erica, they ran about a couple $100,000 a piece, right? That left.
225 and St. Paul's was 182 or 186. But as we discussed, there's issues currently at St. Paul's High Track and with Mr. Jerome. From the conversations we've had, the company that put the track in is not going to do anything to fix St. Paul's. If it's going to be fixed, it would have to be paid. All that occurred prior to Mr. Jerome being the AD.
Right.
Previous AD conversations, and it has something to do with the initial determination of the underlayering of the track.
That's right.
Okay. Then we got replaced toilets in the curriculum building. That can't be too hard, Mr. Ernie. To replace the toilets in the curriculum building here at this place, Art Gray?
Yes, sir. Yeah, the COVID hit our internal team that was doing it. And I responded back, hopefully we're gonna try to get started back on that again next week,
Getting his information now.
in-house personnel.
So you hope to get it within 30 days?
Yes, sir.
I didn't give you the agenda.
Ma'am? And then, remove toilets and stalls from old bathrooms to convert to workrooms for teachers at Deep Branch. Has that been discussed anymore, Mr. Ernie?
We went out and taken a look at it, and it's just a matter now of us getting together with the principal and see what his views of the rooms are gonna be.
Okay, so you'll
Yeah, we'll follow up on that for you.
These couple items can't be high dollar.
It's in the house.
This be in-house, would this be in-house, Mr. Mike?
That's what I would think. Would you
Okay.
do all this in-house, Mr. Ernie?
We'd probably contract some of the, construction type labor. Because right now, we're running at a deficit with our construction crew.
Okay.
They're pretty well taxed out with all of the, concerns that we've got about getting these classrooms ready.
Okay. We understand that.
Chairman,
Yeah.
committee speak, Chairman, would it be appropriate to say that we need to probably focus on elementary schools since we're talking about elementary possibly coming back first
Yeah.
before we, I know we probably can do both at the same time, but it depends on who the contractors are and what's going on. And being that I think if we agree that the elementary's coming back first, shouldn't they be the first schools that we get completed?
It makes sense, for sure.
Got one elementary school on here though. It's Rex Rennet and we got, Deep Branch, only got two elementary schools on here.
And that's, I was looking at that too, but that's why I said
Yeah, only got two on here.
things may come up
Okay.
on,
So, all y'all have a copy of the high school list. Y'all have a copy of the top 3 things, high school meetings. Just look at that for a minute, because some of this stuff, I think that can be done relatively inexpensive. I know everything adds up and it adds up quick, but you know, if we look at Lumberton High School, it says auditorium complete makeover. Well, we know that's $1 million or more, I think, Eric.
Is there at least a median that price was given, through one of the teachers there several years ago?
Yeah, I know we had that study one time before. We know it's well over $1 million. And then the HVAC, I mean, when you put this HVAC up, it could be a multitude of things. I think what we need to do, Dr. Williams, if you will, or have somebody from the staff talk to Mr. Brooks and see exactly what he's talking about at HVAC. I mean, maybe something that we can chip away at, you know. And then the awning in the back of the school. I don't know, go ahead.
I just wanted to let everybody know you can cross off 3A for the sound system and taking care of that.
Oh, really? So they got a new sound system?
We're working on that.
That works even anyway.
Okay, so we ordered one. I don't know if that's for the auditorium and the gym. I have to check, but
Yeah.
it's taken care of.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
someone describe for me the awnings in the back of the school. I'm not really clear on exactly what, I know what an awning is, but.
Yeah, I understand. I don't know myself. That's what I'm telling you. We need to get.
Okay.
Talking about where the buses drop the kids off.
Yeah.
And they get off, they won't have to get off in the rain. They'll be able to go in the cafeteria or into the building.
That was my conception of it. I know we had this discussion similar to it, to protect the, I don't.
Might be something.
That is an awning. There's something else, there's another term for
The
it.
proper terminology, sir, is, covered walkway.
There you go. Yeah.
we have,
Because I was lost when they were saying awning.
Yeah.
Is that something you can,
Walkway, I get it.
Yes, sir, I do too.
Yeah.
you'll designate it all out? What we'll try to do is get prices on some of these items that we can. Go ahead, Henry.
Mr. Mike, I've been contacted by about every one of these high schools. The same issue
Yeah,
with the feeding program, because we've had makeshift tarps through our carpentry department, and where a bunch of donated tarps was given.
yeah.
But they're saying when, you know, like when it was cold weather, it was more of a problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're gonna address one, it's gonna be hard to explain why we didn't get them all.
Well, we can look at all of them. I mean, you know, if y'all have a concern, we'd be glad to look at them. And then some of them have, a need or a want.
I think Miss Charlene said she was gonna go around each one and previously and do a survey.
Okay. Then we get down to Red Springs High School, it says connect the entryways. I don't know, do you know what that is, Mr. Ernie?
Connect the entryway.
And we fixed that one spot, I know, that one.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what they mean connect the entryway.
Good check on that.
I'm like you, I would think they're talking about connecting the main building to your, annex building. Maybe that's what they're referring to. I know the canopy's been redone, but
Yeah, I know that one canopy's been done. And roof repairs in the gym, assistant principal's office, I don't know if that was on the, roof repair list. And then it got moved softball field to baseball field at Tom Cope. We talked about that. We're still working on a plan for the land that we bought. We don't intend to move the softball field to Tom Cope. That's intentions anyhow. So we're working on that. Ma'am,
Red Springs Gym was not on the original list we were provided,
okay.
at the previous meeting, so.
but I've got it on my
You've got it.
roofing list. I've
Okay.
got just about all the problems.
Okay.
You do?
Yes, sir.
What is included?
Okay, then if you come down to Fairmont High School, we got HVAC buildings B and D. Are they on the list, Mr. Ernie?
Let's see.
How much you been on this?
B,
And D.
Fairmont High School.
B and D.
B and D.
Yeah.
D, we've pretty well, got the P-tax in that. So that's, I would say about, 90% complete.
Yeah,
The area in the foyer there, we've got to put some mini splits in that. And we'll go ahead and, that, but as a matter of fact, we did all of that between us and the contractor, so. The mini splits is where we kind of stopped at because we got sidetracked at the time. Because we were finishing, on that heating problem there. We got, Rosamore was totally complete. What we had to finish there was the media center, mini splits.
okay.
So,
And then number 2, it says washouts, sinkholes and courtyard. Have y'all addressed that any?
is this at Fairmont?
Yes.
You got one at Red Springs, that's what I was gonna tell you, but you got I don't know about, yes, it's Fairmont, yes, sir.
Yeah. The one at Fairmont now, is it in the courtyard around the school building or?
This courtyard at football.
And football.
Yeah, the football field, because we were one of those, so thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Has that been addressed?
All of everything you got on this list, we'll follow that right up in-house with your list. Now, there's some places that it may require, if it's an existing, catch basin, where it's seed out, we usually handle that in-house. But if it's a large area where the piping is deteriorated, then you're gonna have to get engineering involved in that because of piping and all of the.
Yeah, you gotta,
Safety critical.
just, if you will, get us up to date,
We will.
all this stuff, and just give us a checklist.
Yes, sir.
You can hand it out, put it in some board packet when we meet again, so we can know where we're at. And talking about washouts, there's a bad washout at Red Springs High School. I'm right where the catch basin is, like you're talking about. It's close to where the line came in, but that hole is probably 8 to 10 feet round. It's real bad. Then it says Fairmont High School to roof throughout the school, so I don't know. I know what throughout the school means, but
As those leaks come in, we've been addressing them, and I think there's a portion of that roof that was taken care of back when the last not hurricane, but the last big rain event came. We did some major repairs. We'll follow up on the small stuff that you're talking about here.
okay.
Fairmont, the B building was on the previous list we received.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
B building.
The B building,
And that roof does need replacing there. And we've got some old equipment there as well on the HVAC that he was alluding to earlier, so.
okay, you get down to St. Paul's High School, of course, he wants to extend the weight room. We talked about that. That's a pretty good sized project. I mean, it needs to be done, but it's about prioritizing things again. Of course, he'd like to have a gym too, so he's got a high price list. Of course, he got some roof repairs. I'm not sure exactly where he's talking about. St. Paul's High. Is St. Paul's High on the list for roof repairs anywhere?
It's the ROTC building, cafeteria building, and dressing room building at rear of gym were on the previous list.
He's got a, like, Mr. Ernie explained before, he's got a firewall, or what you consider a firewall, and it's a dead stop and a roof, another roof joins it flat. From where the water's coming down that sidewall, it's going inside.
And you got a new wing to increase enrollment, 1,200 kids. Okay. So new wing could be used out of that other money, couldn't it, Erica? Because it's new.
The new construction,
The new construction could be out of that
as long as it's classrooms, it could be lottery too. It could be either or.
lottery or that 15 million if we, I'm just talking now.
Yes.
Where do we stand with them monies?
Go ahead.
You know, we're still in discussions for alternative procedures with FEMA. The state has assigned a lot of people to that case, so we're waiting to see how much they're gonna give us there before we can proceed with the 15 million.
Okay. In the Pernell High School, they had additional teacher parking lot near back entrance. Extend the student parking lot and shelters for mobile units. I don't know if that shelters, that like shelters, just rain shelters, do you know what that is?
Mr. Mike, there in the back, there's several mobile units at the back of Sweat. And when you come out of the building, you walk outside with no canopy to go to several of those units that's back there.
They like to try to,
They'd like to try to just run shelters connecting, so while they're walking, they're not walking in the rain. That's what that is. Let me read you this also. When you talked about 3A, the sound system at Lumberton High, I got a letter here that came from Mr. Brooks back in the fall. And he's got on here, Miss Erica, about that they thought they could take care of the sound system for the gym. So that's, he's talking sound system here. I think it was the gym, as was mentioned a while ago. So the auditorium still needs whatever it needs. And
included with that million, yeah.
right. And then also, Mr. Mike, the Red Springs High School, now I'm not sure if this is what Mr. Campbell means there, but I was there last week and we did leave from one of the front main building going into another building, and there had been like a new canopy put up. It was, it was a real short distance, maybe from Mr. Terry to myself, but it was new. Now, I don't know if that's what he was talking about, stuff like that. It looked like he told me it hadn't been up that long. But I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's what he's talking about here.
I'm not sure. Okay.
We had leaks over there.
He said that one was fine, the one I'm talking about.
We can get a price on the shelters, Mr. Ernie, I don't know if that's something y'all can do in-house too, at Purnell Swift High School.
Yes, we can follow through on that.
We'll get a price on the metal building for the weight room at St. Paul's instead of adding on to the old building.
Craig's talked about the metal buildings a little bit.
Mr. John, I did some investigation and it's gonna take a little bit more. And I did find out and actually talked to the athletic director today at South Columbus High School. They built one and then they've added on to it. I think now he's total is up there, like he weren't even sure how big it was. But I know, he told me one mistake they made, part of the building, they didn't put no heat nor air in it. He said, don't do that. And, but he did invite, he said, if you want to bring some people down here and look at this, feel free to do so. But, I will give you this. I had made a contact with an engineer and they gave me a paper of some buildings that had been done in Hope County. And just to give you these dimensions and what he told me of, and then we didn't go no farther until this committee come back. I got a 44 by 33 with 11.5 foot roof inside. Basically a metal shell building. And that was roughly figured at $88 a square foot, which was $127,000. And that was with not doing anything inside. That was just the shell building, basically. That's all it was. They had another one there, 30 by 60 with a 10-foot roof. It was also a metal building. Now this one was used as a classroom. It had windows in it. But that one was done roughly at $75 a square foot, which put it at $135,000. And all these buildings were pre-engineered buildings and insulation. and, on concrete slabs. That was with no interior work as far as heating and air, restrooms, stuff like that. It didn't include any of that, and that's what prices they come up with. Now, that doesn't get into what, say, DPI would require us to do if we had other things to do, but, and he said he could get us more information on this if we wanted to. But that's preliminary stuff there.
I mentioned to Mr. Ernie earlier, I think it was last year. Does that, price, is that a building that's hurricane resistant?
It would, all that would have to be, it would have to be done with meeting the DPI standards and all hurricane, 130 mile per hour plus winds, all that would have to be included in any building like this we would put up. And, there was just a lot of variables, and I can tell you some of the people I talked to LL&J to get some of the information, because they had done some stuff in with getting people quotes. And, he said, I can get y'all some more information if you want me to. Now, and we got some, just sit and talk at no charge. Now, he said, if you get serious and want me to get some more information, I can do it. And then we would have to work out what their fee would be to do things. But, you know, these are preliminary figures on these size buildings here. And in some cases, we had looked at this size. I really don't know what size we're looking at. I mean, it depends on if you just building a weight room, that's one thing. If you're trying to get a weight room with other stuff in it, that gets into other things. And of course, the bigger it is, probably the less buildings you could do. You know, for what the guy told me at South Columbus, I think before you do anything, it would be worth taking a ride down just to look and see what they got. But he did make the comment that a lot of what they had done there, the labor was donated. They had some different situations where they had to buy materials and the labor got donated. Of course, that's the way you're gonna save a lot of money. But I always like seeing what people's got before I spend money, if you can.
Right.
And South Columbus is not that far away.
Mr. Mike,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Vontae, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. I'll go after you.
Carroll Middle and Rex Renner contacted me. Rex Renner, I think we're all in agreement. The only school that doesn't have a paved parking lot. Carroll Middle, I got a call that they get out of their car, they're in the midst of a pond, trying to make it to the office or into the school. And I haven't looked at that. Can't describe it. I don't know what it's like. Maybe Mr. Ernie can help us with that, but those are two concerns that I know that's came to me. Now, whether there's work orders in place or whatever, I don't know, Mr. Ernie.
Yeah.
And but I do know that, Mountaineer Farms had already agreed to pay for the parking lot at Rex Renner before they gave us the 30,000. And they said they would revert that. The owners agreed to revert that and give us additional monies that went towards the hot spots and technology.
Say that again. You say,
Mountaineer had agreed,
I know they gave us the money.
they had agreed to pave the parking lot at Rex Renner School
Right.
with, the principal over there, Miss Nikki Brooks,
Right.
reaching out to them. But once, I didn't know that she had done that, but when I reached out to Mountaineer Farms, the owner said they would revert and not do that, but give us the 30,000 towards the technology that I had requested.
Right.
That's when I found out about the parking lot at Rex Renner.
Yeah,
And I went and apologized to the principal that I had superseded her.
yeah. Okay. All right, so we can look at this list here and some of the things that it's kind of hard to do a lot of stuff if you don't have dollar amounts beside them. We know some of the things. We know the auditorium and the weight rooms and some of that stuff's pretty expensive. So that's stuff that you can do like a year plan, a 5-year plan, or a 10-year. I mean, some of us won't be here, but still need to have some type of contingency plan in place so whoever's here can be working on it. And also on this list, I wrote down there, St. Paul's High School lighting, right up to the high school top 3. I talked to Jason, Jason had called me and said that, there's a lot of community people that go to St. Paul's High School, and walk around that track, he probably said 75, 100 people in a couple of days. And what he'd like to do, if it's possible, is put those lights on automated where you could call Musco. They were put in by Musco, like all the lights in the county. And the county is going around right now, Ricky and them is putting in lights at all the county parks. I know they put some in Red Springs where we used to play softball, and they're doing it throughout the county. So Musco's in the county. And what he'd like to be able to do is, I work part-time in the town of Pembroke, and we got, their lights were put in by Musco, and all we got to do is call them and tell them to turn on the lights at 6 o'clock, and they'll turn them on. You just turn them on at 6, turn them off at 10, and they do it. Nobody's got to manually go out there and flip a switch. So the cost on that's about 15,000 is what I've been told. And it's primarily for the community. Jason has reached out to the town council. Town council doesn't have any monies in their contingency funds anywhere that they can feel that they can help out any. So I'm just throwing that out there. I personally like to see it happen if we could. And I don't mind doing it. I know we got some money from our sale. We had auction sale. We got about $40,000 or whatever. So I know how the budget works, but if we could do that, that's something.
Is that a one-time fee of 15,000?
Just one time we've done. Yeah. And then right under that is additional athletic revenue. And Dr. Williamson passed out this 2021 athletic revenue supplement. So I'll let Erica handle that.
Good evening, everyone. There's been the discussion, as you're aware, we're moving forward with high school athletics. And so those schools are going to have expenses for all of the sports without being able to get the revenue that they've been used to receiving from having active people participating, coming to view the games, because they're limited in all the sports on how many people can come in and pay to watch the games at this point. So between Dr. Williamson and Mr. Jerome Hunt and myself, we kind of thought about, well, what would be the fairest way to look at the 5 high schools with sports so it doesn't exclude early college because they don't have any sports. So we decided to look at 1920 revenue as a whole at each school. We pulled this information direct from their school funds accounts. And you can see it's listed for all the schools there. That's the top line item, is what they had at 1920. So we thought about at least setting a base of giving every school an additional $30,000. And so if we took 50% of where they were in 1920, everybody but Red Springs would hit that 30 base. So we'd add an additional 1,000 to Red Springs, and you'll see the totals to the schools is what we're asking to approve, and we'll send a check to the schools for this total out of local funds to help them cover their athletic programs for this year. Now, we know this may not be enough. We feel it's a good starting point, but it may be something we have to revisit later on in the year. And I also included what their current balances are in their athletic accounts on the last total there. And I just put in the notes, I rounded the revenue totals to the nearest 1,000. And because Lumberton Senior had a unique situation where they went to the state championship, they got additional funds from the High School Athletic Association and other donations specifically for all those games that I'm not trying to say they won't win the state championship every year, but are highly unlikely to continue on a reoccurring and annual basis. So we excluded those funds, and I put the total that was excluded from the amounts of their revenue for last year because of the basketball. And so we want to ask that this move forward, if the Finance Committee will approve, that we'll present this as an action item, as a budget amendment for discussion at the next board meeting.
Michelle's thoughts?
Are these funds to be spent at the discretion of each school?
Yes.
Okay.
And for athletic purposes, that's the only caveat that we would put to it, that it's used for athletics.
And you're saying, Mr. Jerome and the superintendent was involved with this process here?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we know they're taking a strain. We all know that they're taking a strain. I don't even know how they play it, to be honest with you. I know there's a lot of games being canceled or whatever, but I think this is a good gesture on our part if we can make it happen there. Can you saying we had to,
Yes, the funds are available to do this, yes, sir. And we also have included in our CARES Act, we've done an amendment to that and waiting on that approval, and we'll bring that forward to the board to reimburse them for the officials. So this wouldn't have to include for the officials, it would be any other expenses that they're incurring.
You can do anything to reimburse for those officials. That would be a big help.
Sir?
That would be a big help if we can reimburse the officials and do this year.
And do this, that's correct. So the reimbursement of officials will be in addition to these dollars.
Fonte?
No, I think it's a good idea and we should, move it to, action and bring before the board.
Okay.
Terry. On the committee.
Terry's on the committee and Vontae's on the committee. Y'all, so if the full board has to vote on anything, but I mean, just so y'all on the committee, so y'all are good with that.
Yeah, I mean, the process, looks like you, did your due diligence to make the process equitable. So I agree.
And again, it's open once, Mr. Jerome, if it was approved tonight, is going to have the conversation with those principals. If there are any other concerns that come up, we'll certainly look at those and just a way to start to be fair to everyone, and any other things that come up, we'll address.
It looks like it's kind of an immediate need if you look at the current balances at some of the schools.
I'm surprised at some of those balances.
Yeah.
That one of them really surprises me.
And that's in their athletics. That's not saying that's the only money they have available at the school for use, but that's what their athletic account reflects at this moment.
I get no concession, no nothing.
They bought some nice rings.
Y'all good with that?
I think we should bring that before the board.
So just to be clear, I will present this as a budget amendment as an action item at the next board meeting. So then we can have the discussion. If the full board does not agree, then we can just deny the budget amendment when I present it for approval.
Sure.
Okay?
Let me ask y'all about the 15,000 I just mentioned about. How y'all feel about that?
I think it's a good idea, but I wanna, you said the town don't got nothing to help us out with. Since it is gonna be a community thing, so, I mean.
I really don't want to say this, but I really will.
I just wanna,
May could get some money from one of the county commissioners.
okay, that,
Represents that area. He talked about maybe paying a third of it, maybe. So I hate to say that out loud, but I did talk to him today, and he feels good.
I think if we could partner, I don't have a problem with us paying some of it, but I think we could partner with some business in the community and that part of, in St. Paul's, or partner with somebody else. I don't see us just paying the whole thing.
Yeah.
Would other schools use?
Well,
That's the only school at this point that has a
but
problem.
Lumberton does it. Lumberton already does it.
Okay.
You can't do it at Red Springs, I can tell you that, because the track's over there
Right.
where it's at now. The ones that might want to do it would be Purnell and Fairmont.
And I do it at UNCP, don't they?
And I don't know how they use it as, I know St. Paul's is used a lot. I know that.
It is.
Mr. Gentry.
Have any of the civic groups or church organizations been approached? Because sometimes they don't have a whole lot of discretionary funds, but sometimes they're amenable to helping out with those kinds of things.
Yeah, the only ones I know was the town itself and Lance Herndon. It's the only two that I know. Now, I ain't gonna say that we couldn't pay it and they could try to recoup some of that money or whatever. We have a good relationship with Musco. They're in the county right now doing a lot of this work, so it would be pretty easy to make that transition. How do you feel about it, Terry? You on the committee?
I was just making a list about, with these priorities, and I was just, focusing on, those facility needs that may be impeding instruction, and that includes, HVAC and, if it's impeding instruction or if it's like a safety hazard, which lighting, that can be a safety issue. But it doesn't seem like a huge amount of money, especially if it's doing that big of a service to the community.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
We'll bring everything up to the whole board. I mean, anything that we talk about, all we do is make recommendations. I just want to know.
I'm okay with recommending that.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll bring it for the board. I'm okay with it.
And continuing to explore potential partners.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll go to 1, 2.
And if they're already in town, you know, may be able to strike while the iron's hot.
And I ain't gonna say the town won't do anything. I mean,
With the company, the Musco, if they're already,
oh yeah, they're in town. They're in town. They're still got 8 or 9 still to do is what Ricky told me. So they're in the county.
And I
Okay.
apologize, there's one more thing I wanted to mention to everybody that's not on the agenda. Several months ago, we mentioned that we have started using employee portal to give employees the options to print their own pay stubs, and it will include their own W-2s as well. And we talked about at some point, we wanted to stop printing the direct deposit forms in an effort to save paper and time for everyone and put that responsibility on the employee to print those stubs. And this has been in place for 3 months now, and we were wondering. January, and of course, I'll send emails, and I have been sending emails to let them know at a date in the future, we would stop sending those direct deposit stubs and put that on the employee. Of course, any paper checks will still continue to print and get to the employees as we have been. But we just wanted to kind of gauge if that's something we can move forward with or not.
What kind of feedback you been getting?
It's been used a lot. Technology, Mr. O'Neill in technology handles the people who forget their passwords and that kind of thing. Last time I checked, we were at least at 50% of people who are using it. We get direct deposit stubs back all the time because the addresses are wrong anyway. I don't think most people look at their stubs. They only need it if they're refinancing or something like that, in my opinion, on what I see. We've got a whole stack over next door where nobody even bothers to come by and get it or change their address. We had the same issues when we were sending them to the schools. And it is costing a lot in postage because we're mailing those instead of our normal procedure due to COVID. And we were just wondering if you.
I don't have a problem myself. I mean, that's just me. And I don't know. When you give everybody due process, right? I mean, you've been communicating with them.
Correct. And if someone still calls and asks, give them the information, but we'll still print them a copy. We're not at the point where we're not providing that as a service.
Is that system capable also of doing W-2s?
Yes.
I know today I went through and there were 6 mail plastic bins, and that's what they were doing. They were putting all the W-2s together, and I was surprised to see so many envelopes. That's a lot of money.
We have over 4,000. With W-2s, we normally do one, and then there's a cost if they want to reprint, but this system, it'll be online next week for the W-2s that they can be printed at no cost to the employee. That will also be part of the system.
Sorry, Carl. I think there would be, if we started doing this, 5 months down the road, somebody says, well, I didn't get this or didn't get that, y'all would have a backup in your system where you could show. That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Pull it up.
Pull it up.
can employees access their leave balances through that system as well?
Their leave balances print on their check stubs each month.
But
Go ahead.
if, the paycheck stub would be delivered to the employees, by email and they would print it out? Is that?
No, sir, it's a web-based system where they have to log into and
Okay.
do it on their own time. There's not any kind of delivery system that notifies them when it's ready. Once we print checks, and several people have called on to that, once we print them in our system, they become online as pending. So, we haven't started printing yet, but Monday we'll start. People as early as Monday can go online and view their stub. It'll just say pending until after that date.
Of course, they would have to use the security password and so
That's
forth, to get
correct.
on there.
Yes, sir. They have to register, and they have to remember that username and password. And our IT, Clark O'Neill, was responsible for helping them if they forget that information or resetting their accounts.
That's great.
It's just a culture change.
Yes,
Yes,
I don't think, I've been at the university 16 years, and I bet it's probably been 13 or 14 years since I've had a stub through the mail.
Okay. All right. We covered the athletics and talked about the lightings and these other items on the list. Is there anywhere y'all, try to zero in. Some of this stuff I still think can be done at a nominal fee. Some of it we know is very costly, so you talk about installing all at the back of Lumberton, or we could talk about the track repairs a little bit, because we, like I say, we've already started that process. I mean, that's been done 2 years ago, so if we want to do Fairmont or Purnell Sweat or Red Springs or whatever, that's the only 3 left. And then if we elect or choose to do one, whoever we do, maybe could fix St. Paul. I mean, that's just a thought. I don't know. What's y'all's thoughts on that? Or any of the rest of the items on the budget, on the agenda?
Well, I think we should, look at whatever we can do in-house first, whatever we can do in-house, and then the big ticket items, like you said, like the tracks, if we was on course, it was like you said, Fairmont, Purnell was up to do a track, we take a look at that and just make sure when we do this track now, we're not coming back 2 years down the road like we're looking at St. Paul's track again.
Right.
And that's just my only thing. I have no problem.
Okay.
And we need to be prepared to explain to Red Springs why they don't have everything in place if we doing others, going back and revisiting schools that's already got a complex, already established.
Well, I'm not sure what you're talking
In
about.
other words, Red Springs is the only school right now that doesn't have a complete athletic complex. They're still wanting to know, how are these other schools getting items that's already in place repaired or refurbished, and they still don't have athletic fields?
Yeah. Well, it comes down, we're working on Red Springs, to be honest with you, but it
Understand.
still comes down to dollars and cents. I mean, if you're gonna spend $20,000 here and it's gonna cost you $200,000 there, I mean, like Vontae just said, you chip away at the smallest things that we think that we possibly can incorporate and take care of, and then we do a more extensive plan. But Red Springs has been looked at. It's
Okay.
making some provisions and compromises on what the big picture was. We're trying to get it in line best we can.
I'm just saying that we need to be able to explain that.
Yeah, I understand.
Some explanation to the public if that comes about.
Right. We will. The weights and racks at Purnell Sweat, I know, what was, Craig, that was, did we ever get a dollar amount on that, or?
There was a previous coach had sent off and got information, which I got what he sent off. I don't know if they've looked at it since then, and that's at least now almost 2 years old. And what they looked at was roughly $50,000. Now, I will say that's only one price, and I do know those particular weights had school emblems, school name on it, which, when you go to doing that, I'm sure that adds to the cost.
Right.
So, if you're going to look at that, it would, to me, you would go back and get some more prices to look at it. And the safety concern on those was mainly with the racks where the weights are mounted, the barbell, the weights themselves. Those pins from those racks had been welded, and some of them had broken off since they had been welded. So the situation is that breaking off and you got kids and stuff in there. That was the dangerous part of it. And the weights had caused the moisture there, had rusted some, but those pins was the real concern on those racks.
Okay.
Surprised we allowed welding on.
Well, that goes back to a case of not having to buy anything, and that's what they ended up trying to do.
But we opening ourselves for trouble.
Yeah.
It didn't come through down here. It wasn't approved down here to do it.
Gotcha.
It was just done.
Then the next item was HVAC repairs. That's kind of a broad statement. We just go back to those high schools and try to get a better number, a dollar amount, so we can see. And then to extend the weight room at St. Paul's High School, we know Randy's not here, but Mr. Ernie, you don't remember what that was. We talked about that 4 or 5 years ago too. That was pretty pricey.
Yes, sir. You talking about the weight room, extension?
Yeah.
Right adding on, yes, sir. Matter of fact, Leach's idea was more cost conservative than the addition portion.
Sure.
So that real way to go, in my opinion. Or you can put it all in one spot and get it done at one time.
Okay.
The HVAC repairs we have numbers on that. Matter of fact, Superintendent and I were discussing it the other day about the report that goes back to DPI.
Yeah.
He had, asked me in reference to, do we know the condition of the chillers? And actually, there's numbers that in every school, on every campus, we've got renovation money or actual capital, what we would project the cost would be. And, at any time, whenever you want to know, an explanation of what it is, it's just a matter of us just backing that from that and getting it printed out for you.
Get it for us if you will. I mean, just so we have a number to look at
You can.
somewhere
It's
around.
just a matter of backing it out of that large report that goes to DPI.
And the makeover at Lumberton High School, we know that's a cost of, that's a very expensive project we put down. And I'm not saying that lightly, I'm just saying it needs to be prioritized. You know, it's not like that money you can take out of lottery funds or where, I mean, because that wouldn't work on stuff like that, would it, Erica?
I'd have to check on that one because technically they do have classes, or at some point they have, or probably would like to if they could get it. So I'll check on that.
Okay, good. Install on, see, that's something Mr. Ernie, install on is at Lumberton. And talked about the tracks. And Mr. Ernie, can we try to get a price on that parking lot at Rex Rennet? Did they have a price on
I
it?
already made a note on that as you were discussing it earlier. You're talking about repaving the existing one at the back or developing one at the front or both?
What were they talking about, Henry Houston?
Because there is a parking lot at the back that was there. I know it's in dire need of paving, an existing parking lot. And then you got your front driveway where they're talking about wanting to develop one at the front as well.
I looked at the one in the front,
Okay.
but I'm not sure if that's enough for all the staff. I would think that Miss Nikki would be the expert to talk to about that.
But there is one at the back that it's actually been paved, but it's been years ago and the paving is in dire need of repairing, so.
If you'll check on Rex Rennet, Mr. Ernie, check on Carroll Middle. We got a lot of paving needs.
Both of those schools written down, when Mr. Brewer was discussing them, I wrote them down as a follow-up.
We need to be paving. I mean, every place in the county needs paving. I know that. I think everybody, if you go to any schools, every one of them needs paving. We need to be on some type of budget cycle for that. In the winter times, what I'd like to see, in the winter times when some of these companies aren't working like they would during the spring and the summer, you might could get somebody to come in and pave 2 or 3 parking lots for you at a reasonable price and knock 2 or 3 out. I just, you know, per year and just go through the cycle. That's me. I don't have any friends in that type of business. You probably know somebody, Mr. Ernie, but when the downtime down, they should work at least a affordable rate.
Mr. Smith, the only problem with the winter time is your temps.
Right.
It has to be a certain temp when you're putting asphalt out. But, for example, like at 74 this time, I kind of looked up, the temperatures kind of worked in so we could get that one done. So it would have to be flexed in.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I know there's a concern about the temp. You'd have to
Yes, sir.
know that they're gonna do it and then they catch, you know, it's not always cold. Sometimes it'll be 60, 70 degrees.
Right.
Maybe not that high, but it'll be 50 to 60 or, so it might be something to look at, that's all I'm saying. Okay. Anything else?
Ernie, just for your info, the person I think that called me was the secretary at Carroll Middle.
Okay, I've got a note. I'm gonna follow that and see what the concern is about the ponding.
Anything else? Alex? Great.
If I mention that, just a reminder that IEA, which I mentioned last time, was, we had went out there and just looked over the campus. From when we sold the land to the university, the county received $75,000 for some land the university purchased where they're going to put a parking lot. And the idea of what was brought up was to, when the college gets finished with their construction, to go back and look at doing some paving at IEA with that 75,000 since it did come from the land that was sold there. No need to do it now because they got construction going on at the back. It's not coming on our campus, but just with all the stuff going on, you need to look at waiting at that until all that is finished. And Mr. Henry and Mr. Ernie, I will tell you, the last time I was there, that front driveway, like, is it, Rex Renner, it was in real bad shape.
Yes.
Drive going in the front,
Yeah, it was.
it's needed paving there for a number of years. And Mike, to your point about paving, the college is actually doing some paving now. And, I went and talked with those fellows today about some paving and some prices and numbers they gave me. I couldn't believe how cheap it was.
Really?
I was very surprised because I said I was going to sit down before we started talking, but them numbers he told me sounded pretty good. And I got a feeling it's because of the time of the year. And he said, like, we can't work someday next week because it's going to be too cold. So we just had to work it in when we can. But the prices that what they were talking sounded pretty good to me.
Yes, sir. Your contractors are getting very creative now. That's what it is.
I think it has to be 50 degrees or warmer too in order for them to put that hot tar down for it to bond.
Any other comments or questions about?
Are any of the track repairs, are they eligible for, CARES Act funds?
No, sir.
No.
Anything else? Anything, Dr. Williams? Okay. So right now, we know we're gonna act on or we're gonna recommend athletics and we're gonna recommend lighting. Anything else, we just come back and try to get some more prices on Mr. Ernie, some of this other stuff that we talked about. Come back.
Get some more prices on those weights. I'll get some. I'll have them to get them.
All right, that's it.
Mr. Mike?
Yes, sir.
And I think we should go down and look at them, metal buildings you talking about, down there at South Columbus.
South Columbus.
We should take a drive down there, just take a look at them, maybe, and see what size it is. I think, you said they got two of them, they built another one.
I think what he's in, they've actually connected them some way. So it's like they didn't do what he told me, all of this was not done at one time.
I
So,
don't mind riding down there.
Yeah, we ride down there and take a look at them, especially when you start talking about the weight rooms, new weights and stuff. Just take a time and just ride down there and take a look.
I'll try to get back up with him and get a couple of dates and then get back with y'all and say, here's the dates.
Good.
Anything else? All right. Motion that we adjourn. Appreciate y'all coming. Thank y'all.